My kid throws so many tantrums a day, I have lost my shame already. But you know what you have to do is actually manage those tantrums. Once you manage those tantrums, they are going to shrink down. And if you're not able to manage them properly, then they're going to expand not only in size, intensity, but they will go beyond the time limit for that age. So if you look at the parenting style, sometimes they say there is rigid authoritarian parenting where they say, do as I say. Just 2 days back, I came across a parent and I was guiding them about some parenting principle at home. And he said, how come our parents, they were so authoritarian, but we turned out fine? And then he said that we are now listening to all these theories which are coming up from the Western cultures, and it's so confusing. So I said, listen, the most important thing that we have to remember is it's not about how the people were doing parenting in the past or how they're doing in the present or what are the different theories. What we have to do is, for us, the most important parameter is we have to understand that we have to give them the best which is coming from Quran and Sunnah and all the things that are surrounding them. So you're giving a general talk. There is nothing about the fitna our youth are facing. Actually, I am giving you the very basic foundation that you need to practice in the times of fitna. I'm pretty sure as parents, most of you are very well aware of all the fitnas that existed, and we have talked about it at the beginning as well. So with these fitnas, if you become a rigid authoritarian parent, do as I say, you can imagine for a minute what your kids are going to do. There are a lot of cultures in which the moment the kids are grown up, then you cannot go beyond a certain point. The law gives them protection. And I have come across many moms who talk to me and they say to me that we can't utter a single sentence to them. We can't tell them to wear hijab. We can't tell them not to go out with the guys, like for the girls, or we can't tell them to do a certain thing and not do a certain thing. And this becomes very, very difficult for everyone to handle. Then there are sweet authoritarian who are super nice, but they know how to control their kids. Then there are permissive parents who are afraid to set certain limits. I come across so many parents, and again, with all these fitnas, what they're doing is they're not able to control their kids. They're not able to guide their kids. They're not able to manage the disastrous situations which their kids are coming across in their life. So what we basically need in these times is something beyond that, and that is doing positive parenting, which is gentle, and there is steadfast guidance which is coming over here. This parenting would only be effective if there is relationship building. This is the most important starting point, and this is something that we don't know how to do. Many times when the mothers they contact me or the parents they contact me for their, especially for their teenagers, and they tell me that my teenager is entering a very, very disastrous kind of very dangerous zone. What am I supposed to do? So I usually tell them that the best possible thing that you can do in these times is connect with your kids and work on your relationship with them. And they have such a lost look on their face, and they're like, what do you mean? How are we supposed to develop the connection? Because developing connection or working on our relationship means I let them do what they want to do. So this is the tricky part, that we have to work on our relationship, but at the very same time, it doesn't mean that we let them do whatever they want to do. So the positive parenting would be when we begin with gentleness, we end with instruction. We don't just have a time out, we also have a time in. Then we are calm in a lot of places and we allow our heart to soften so we can do tarbiyah of our kids. For this, the beautiful guideline that comes to us is from like Surah Nahl, verse number 125. Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mau'izatil hasana. Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that is best. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ عَالِمُ بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ وَهُوَ عَالِمُ بِالْمُهْتَدِينَ. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way, and he is most knowing of who is rightly guided. So basically, what we need to do is call them towards good using hikmah, wisdom. These are the times when we need to be smart, not just intelligent. Because a lot of intelligent people, when they are intelligent, but they don't use wisdom dealing with all the family issues and even the parenting challenges, then they do disastrous work. And then, well, mau'iza. Mau'iza is instruction which is based on wisdom, which is based on empathy, compassion. Like when you're giving them some direction, guiding them, it is in their best interest and that best interest is also pretty much visible to them. And then al-hasana, it's not just mau'iza. Mau'iza in itself is a very beautiful advice that you give, but hasana is even like, sort of multiplied effect, like cherry on the top kind of an attitude. So try to break through for mentoring. The tips that you can have for the breaking through the mentoring is the physical touch. Like, when you're talking to your kids, you just put your hand on their shoulder, give them a warm smile, compliment them on something, acknowledge their achievements, and point to their good behaviors, spend some quality time with them, good family time with them. And whenever you want to ask them or move into their life, then give them open-ended questions so that they have to think and they have to come up with something to say to you. These are all the factors that are there with their peers, and that is why they are very much attracted to their peers rather than coming to the parents when they should be talking to them. And that is why what we find out is, like in a narration, that the Prophet ﷺ, he kissed his grandson Al-Hassan anhu, in the presence of Al-Aqra bin Habis. And when he remarked that I have 10 children, I have never kissed any one of them. And the Prophet ﷺ looked at him and said, he who does not show mercy to others will not be shown mercy. So then what are we supposed to do? We need to generate some respect. And respect is like this glue that holds your relationship together. And it is very, very important to have respect, because receiving respect from others is important, as it helps us to feel safe, and then we are able to express ourselves. When we are respected by important people in our lives, it helps us in growing and learning. And then when we reach out to other people, we are also respectful. And respect means that you accept somebody for who they are, even when they're different. Because of this, you work on your relationship, you give them trust, you give them safety and well-being. So respect doesn't have to come this naturally like that. You have to learn it. And how do you learn? I have given you some of the tips. You feel safe being around each other. It's okay for both of you to express who you are. When you disagree, you listen to each other and be patient. Sometimes the parents would talk to me and say, I have to actually stop my kid from going beyond a certain point when they're trying to have this heated debate or discussion with me, because it's killing me inside and I'm feeling so apprehensive. How am I supposed to deal with this situation? I usually tell these parents, what you need to do is just relax, sit back, listen to everything, show respect, appreciate that your kids have shared something, and then you give them the information, the right information. And inshallah, we're going to be talking about it over here. After this, what we see is that you don't yell or talk over the top of each other. Neither of you are controlling the other person's choices. You both talk openly about your needs and wants, and you allow the other person to have the space that that person needs. And you can both admit when you have made a mistake. So like, something that your kids say that this is what I want to do and this is something that is important for me. What you can do is you can say that's very interesting, and let's explore it. Let's look into the sources from Quran and Sunnah first. If it is halal, then we would move in this direction. If it is haram, if it's absolute no, then we won't even think about it. And then you go to some scientific researches, you go to the experts and you tell them, let's find out what the experts say about this thing. And then you make a decision. And that is exactly what we find out in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse number 96. Idfa billati hiya ahsanu sayyi'a nahnu a'lamu bima yasifun. Rebel by means of what is best, the evil. We are most knowing of what they describe. So when you want to get rid of something which is not appropriate, replace it with something which is appropriate. So when we talk about this parenting in these times, when there's so many fitnas, what you need to do is become a proactive parent. Like you have to catch a potential problem before it gets out of hand. Like sometimes when I have these parents and they have a 4-year-old kid sitting in the lap and they're showing them screen after screen because they want them to just sit and finish their, or I wouldn't say finish their meal, I would say stuff their meal and get obese and overweight. And I ask them, why are you giving screen to your kid? And the parent would say, oh, I'm so helpless because if I take away the screen, then my kid wouldn't eat the food for one thing. And secondly, it would start throwing a tantrum. What am I supposed to do then? I have to give them this answer that if you're not able to manage your kid or discipline your kid when he's 4 year old, then what would this kid do to you when he's 15, when he's 17, when he's 18? And the parents have usually very blank expression on their face, and I can very easily say this is not a proactive parent who's not thinking that whatever decisions I take in this time and what kind of impacts it's going to have in the future. So having an action plan for any arising problem, it is very, very important. Like sometimes you'll come across, let's say you are in a community and you put your kid in a certain school. Initially you thought, oh, it's okay, my kid can study in this school for a certain time frame and I'm going to be working on my kid. And the proactive parent would see how are the kids in the similar school when they are like in the 9th grade, 10th grade, when they're totally grown up. So if you see that majority of the kids are doing very well in that age, that means Alhamdulillah, you have made a good choice. You're a proactive parent. But let's say majority of the kids are facing many challenges, then you have to give it a second thought. So make sure the kids' physical and emotional needs are met as well. So how do you do that? How do you become a proactive parent in these times and manage the challenges that are there? For that, you have to move from a negative to a positive motive. Child does something bad, you don't see your child as a bad person, you see your child as a good person who needs the guidance. Any mess in the life of the child is a shout out for you to come and guide them and help them and teach them a certain skill. So now you correct the behavior, you approach your child with a different tone and attitude. You see a child again as a good person with a good motive but a poor choice. I want you to actually highlight this part, that your kid is a good person with a good motive but a poor choice. And that is why it is important to manage. Because the parents are so frustrated in these times. They have their own set of challenges, and then they have multiple challenges at home and at work and stresses. So what they do is, rather than talking to their kids in a most polite manner or guiding them or helping them, they're trading the punishment. What they do is they're just pushing them and they're hitting them and they are just using punishment. But what I want you to learn is trade punishment for some solutions. The biggest fear of this positive parenting is that if I move away from punishment, which means I'm not holding my kid accountable or I'm eliminating discipline, then it's going to be like a very permissive kind of attitude, and my kid is going to take me for granted and they are not going to listen to me, because this is exactly how we see people doing. Apparently this is what is happening in the society. But basically what we need is self-discipline. Discipline would be that we learn to manage ourselves as parents. There are so many qualities that can contribute to a person's achievement and happiness, but there is only one that begets sustainable long-term success in all aspects of life, and that is the self-discipline. So whether it is in terms of diet, fitness, work ethics, relationship, ibadah, we see that self-discipline is the number one trait which is needed to accomplish all the goals so that you lead a healthy life and ultimately you're happy. If you have discipline in your life, that's when you're able to cope with the challenges of your child. I was working with a team of counselors, and there was a girl who was in self-harm, and ultimately she had a lot of anxiety and panic attack. The parents, whenever the therapist would guide them towards some of the challenge of their daughter, and whenever the therapist would tell them that do this or do that, and the parents would go in a panic mode and they wouldn't be able to like even eat properly, or they wouldn't be able to manage their own basic parameters of self-discipline properly. So when I asked the therapist that why is it so much important to work on the parents rather than just working on this child, they said if the parents wouldn't have the self-discipline, they are the one who have to provide all the support, all the structures to their kid. So if there's no discipline in them, they will not be able to do the parenting on the right principles. So there are a lot of researches which tell us that people who have high self-control, they are more happier, more focused, they are able to achieve their goals with minimum conflicts, they're able to spend their time in a positive manner, and they also have a very important impact on all the people that they are talking around or dealing with. So we need to learn to manage ourselves well, take responsibility of our own emotions and behavior. And discipline is not something that we do for children, but something that we instill in children. And if we still learning, think about the child and his age. So that's an important thing. Like in Surah Tahrim, verse number 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O believers, save yourself and your families from the fire. So the guiding principle is not just like we sit here and we have like 5 magic potions that I tell you, okay, these are the ones which are going to safeguard your kids from all the fitnas of these times. No, it's hard work that we have to be focusing on. It's the right principles that we have to understand. These are the parameters that we need to set for ourselves, and that is something which is going to help us. So punishment, they just rob the kids of valuable lessons, snatches away opportunities to take responsibility for their behaviors. They are not able to fix themselves properly. They can't learn from their mistakes. They don't make right choices, and there is no growth. So what we want them to do is, basically, we want to hand them the responsibility. We want to give them the ownership of their life. We want them to learn to damage control. We want them to learn to make amends. We want them to learn some more skills, become more skillful in light of what they learn from Quran and Sunnah. Because with punishment, they will only learn shame. They will learn that they're bad. They won't be able to manage all their mistakes, all their errors. And kids' behavior, it usually comes from place of insecurity. Whenever they are insecure about their relationship at home, they're insecure about the peer pressure, they're insecure about how they're going to fit in the society, their self-esteem, their self-worth, something that they have ingratitude, their own personality struggles, then deep emotional unrest, then fear of losing this attachment bond, feeling of frustration, aggressive behavior, they all lead to deep emotional problems. So whenever we have a behavior of a child, don't just look at something which is in the forefront. Look at everything which is behind it. It's like the behavior is tip of the iceberg. You have to look at the whole thing, the whole challenge that they're going through. So basically, when we remove punishment, it's not like we are removing the boundaries. Very important thing that we have to do is we need to establish a parental writ. And this is something which is missing in these times of fitna. Like kids are acting like parents. They're bossing around their parents, and the parents are just following the instructions which are given to them by their kids. So we need to learn to take these right stands. Like whenever we're dealing with our children, we need to have a lot of green stands, which means that we let them do many things, and for that we say yes, 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 yes. Like close the door, turn off the light, put this table on the glass, can you hand me a glass of water, can you do this, can you hand me a napkin, can you do this, can you put this in the trash. Many things. 80% of the times we keep telling them things that they would do, and they would automatically learn this thing that yes, we have to listen to our parents. Then we need to have some lush green stands, and this means things that our kids love to do, but we sort of bring it on the table for them. Like for example, they love to go out for a picnic, or out to eat ice cream, or like have hot chocolate somewhere, or go for a drive with us. And we say, you want to go out? Let's go for a picnic. Let's go and play something outside, and let's go for cycling. And they're like, yes. They come along with us. So again, psychologically, what they're learning is we need to listen to our parents, and we're giving all the instruction, but this is something that our kids enjoy. Then we need to learn to take yellow stands, and these yellow stand mean like sometimes when you tell your kid, can you please clean your room? It's such a mess. And the kid would say, oh, not right now. Maybe I'll do it over the weekend. So the weekend approaches and you again go to their room and it's again same mess. You're like, you haven't yet cleaned your room. Come on, I need it cleaned and fixed in maybe 2 hours. When you come after 2 hours, so they're not very happy, and they're saying, why do you always have to push me? I'm so happy and comfortable with all the mess in my room, but they ultimately do it for you. So they're not happy, but they do it for you. But there are certain red stands that we have to take, and this means this is something that is so much important for you. It's about halal and haram. You want to set a very clear categorical limit for them. This is something which is absolute no, you cannot do it. and your kid would stand up, create a crisis, give you a threat on that, blackmail you for that. But if you have a lot of green stand, lot of lush green stand, then some yellow stand. So, and you have established a parental rate that when you say something, okay, yes, I'll give you a certain time frame, but you have to abide by it. That's when they learn that, yes, we have to actually be listening to our parents. So 21st century challenge, it comes when the parenting goal is we empower our children, we inspire them, we choose to love them, we listen to your own heart, and we have this proactive kind of attitude. Yes, we have to see behind the behavior, whoever they are. And a lot of things what we see, the common behaviors that I have observed, not only in the preschoolers, but also till they reach the teenage. There is a lot of aggression, there is whining, they're not listening, they're throwing tantrums, they're talking back. All these behaviors ultimately lead to very risky behaviors that are the fitnas for us. So if you have that positive parenting principle in your life, if you establish the rate, if you talk to them in a proper manner, you would notice that all these things wouldn't stay much of a challenge for you.